Remains of the Day, the book, is entirely in his head, isn't it? It is, isn't it? It's the first. I haven't read it, but I felt betrayed by the book, because the book actually had his thoughts, which of course you don't get in the film. And there's one scene in the book which I think was left out of the film where he actually talks to a guy at the end.
Right.
And
we shot that.
In fact, I bet you left it out. And
we left it out.
We all thought it was great that you did.
Huh?
The consensus where I was among my friends was that it's great that you did.
It had been in the very first script that was written for the project before I got involved. And then the next script was written by Ruth, and she didn't like that scene. And but the first script had been sent to Anthony Hopkins, and he said, okay, he wanted to do this movie on the basis of the first script. Then a second script comes without that scene. And you know, all actors love, I mean actors, male actors, love to cry. I mean, it's one of the things they really like to do. And as you remember, he broke down in that scene and wept a bit. And he said, if I don't get to do that scene, I may not do this film. So we said, well, all right, we'll put it back and we'll do it. And but then if we all decide we don't like it, then we'll get rid of it. How about that? He said, okay. So we actually shot the scene, but it wasn't good. I mean, it was limp, and also nature was against us, a tremendous storm. It was, you know, it was shot on a pier and in the seaside town, and there was this tremendous storm that blew up and blew pieces of lighting equipment into the water and all kinds of terrible things, and ruined the sound and everything else, and rained, so anyway, we got through it. We shot it, and we edited it, and then it was obviously not something that ought to be there. So, and he never said a word about it after that. He saw the film and he never said, "Where's that scene?"
He knew you had made the right decision, because it's unimaginable. I mean, I find unimaginable to think of that scene being in it, because he is that from the beginning to the end. Because you see
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's what Ruth felt about it also. I'm always not so analytical about things like that, and when he said, "Oh, I may not do the film unless that scene is there," and I said, "Oh, he's not going to do the film, and let's put it back," and well, so we did, but then.
It's easily my personal favourite of yours. It's one of my favourites of all time. I've never heard anyone speak badly of it. It's an absolutely wonderful piece of work. But before you made the film, okay, the book was out there and was much feted, but nobody said, "Why on earth do you want to make a film about a guy who expresses nothing?" And in that time period, I mean, was it a hard sell, or did you at that point not even need to sell it?
Well, nobody had to sell me on the book. When we were making Mr. and Mrs. Bridge in Kansas City, one of the actors was reading it, and he came up and he gave it to me and he said, "This is sort of hard going, but you may like it." So I started reading it when we were in Kansas City, and I just couldn't put it down. I thought it was tremendous, and I wanted to make it into film immediately. And so then we got hold of Ishiguro's agent and all of that, and found that Sony had bought the rights to it, and that Mike Nichols was going to make it.
Why did he drop out and you step in if you didn't?
It's a funny story, and I really don't know. I mean, I was told, for instance, that he was on his way to England, and thinking as he sat there on the plane, in order to make this film, we'd have to spend $25 million. Is that what I really want to do? And then he went back apparently to Sony and said, I've had second thoughts about all this, and I think that this isn't really for me. But he's a great Anglophile, so I don't know what went wrong.